Hi guys, figured I'd show you how I take care of my cotton ropes. I've got a lot of questions on them. Before I start, it's windy and probably going to rain a little bit later today, so I won't be able to show how I treat them with linseed oil on this video. I will show that in the future. I won't do that right now with my rope because I like to leave them stretched overnight when I do that. That process is pretty straightforward. Once you get your new Honda tied on the end of it, or whatever it is that you're going to do to it, you just stretch it with a pickup, almost guitar string tight, and then pour some linseed oil in your hand as you're running it down the rope. You start at the Honda and work towards the tail, get it covered, and then I leave them up overnight. If I can, 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it seems like the longer you leave them, the little bit better more even it takes before you take the stretch out of it. It makes them a little bit less likely to kink and act really weird. That being said, this rope, you've probably... I know, my phone's right there. This rope, it's not breaking in the way I like. Normally when I linseed oil them, they've become really light feeling and kind of lifeless, and this rope is just kind of staying like a cable. It's doing the typical cotton rope thing in that within a few feet from the Honda here, you can see it's kind of got that twist to it. So we're gonna get back to where it's fresh, probably right about here, and that's where we're gonna cut it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take some tape. I'll figure out where exactly I want to cut it. Actually, this looks like better rope back here. So right there's the good spot. So I'm going to go back about a foot and I'll put a couple wraps of tape around it. You're right in the way, little girl. You're right in the way. I know, it's super fun. There you go. There. Just put a couple wraps of tape around it so when you cut it, it doesn't start unraveling. Electrical tape is excellent for this. This is just some athletic tape. It's the closest tape I grabbed. It'll work just fine. Make sure and get it. I'm gonna need that. You can have that though. You want that? There you go. Make sure and get it nice and warm and let the adhesive in the tape kind of take place. And go back up to where I decided to cut it. And you can just set it on a table or whatever and cut it. Can you hold that for me though, hon? Pull hard. And cut it. Then you can give this half of it to your kid to play with to distract her. Because that half is junk. So you can see this rope, the way it likes to coil here. I'll hold that in my legs and I'll just start unraveling it all the way down to my tape. These cotton ropes are 5 strands plus a nylon core, and I tie a little bit different knot in the end of it than most people do, and the only reason for that is because it's the knot that I know how to tie. I know. It's exciting stuff, huh? Like I said, I'll just keep unraveling it here. I'll get it all unraveled from itself. No, you stay down. Here. Like that. It's not the most exciting process right here at the moment. Okay, now this is why I hold it in my legs here, because from this point on, I want to think of when it's coiled up correctly, this is the top of the rope, and the inside of the coil will be the bottom. Zoom right in on here and make sure that. So you'd have the bottom here and the top here when it's coiled correctly. Okay, stay fairly close to it while I tie this. So I will take... There's kind of 2 strands on the top right here. I'll just take one of them. I'll bring it back and go under itself and then through. Okay? Now I'll kind of cinch that one up a little bit close, but leave them loose. And the next one folds, comes under, and like so. Okay, the tail is kind of wanting to come out right here. Sometimes it's the last, or the core rather, is wanting to come out right there. Sometimes it's the last piece, sometimes it seems to want to fall in line. So we'll just put it in there. Now, it's important to make sure not to get any of these strands crossed right here. They all need to lay in order. So I'm just going to keep bringing them around, and every strand now works its way down the rope and goes through every other strand. Okay, and this is my last strand here. It's gonna feel awkward with this last strand. It's gonna feel like you're kind of forcing it rather than it wanting to lay. So you get to this point, these strands all lay correctly. Now, none of them are crossed or woven or anything like that. Now I'm gonna go back up to what's my very first strand, take a little bit of slack out of everything. And one by one, I'm just gonna pull these to where there's kind of not enough slack for him to get goofy acting on me. I know. You're just such a helper. You stand right here. Thank you. Okay, now I'll go to my first strand and I'll kind of push it around with my thumb. Grab, no, don't pull on that, please. Pull on it there. Go to the next strand, push it around like that. And the reason I push them is that so if I pull on one and it's say over top of a strand next to it, it doesn't grab it and pull the other strand also. Okay, we're gonna pull that core now. That's where that wanted to sit in here this time. And I'm just gonna keep kind of always trying to snug them up tight to the underneath itself, I guess you could say. Okay, it's not, you don't need to worry about this not ending up on the top or anything like that. However it decides to lay is fine, because that will make no difference in the end. So now I just go through and I pull each one of them real hard in order, and this will cinch the knot down. I am holding it with my right hand so I don't pull it off of the end of the rope. Okay. And you just keep working that around there until you get no more movement out of it. Okay, like I said, this is just how I tie it. If you're looking for a prettier knot, or probably what's the correct way, you're gonna want to look up a Turk's head, T-U-R-K-S head knot, and that's a lot prettier of a knot. It really is. This knot is simple, it's quick. It's how I do it, right, wrong, or indifferent. You know, if you really are against that knot, tie the knot that you like. It makes no difference, as long as once you tie your Honda, that knot stays there. Okay, now I will take my knife again, and when I cut this the first time, I leave a couple inches of tail on it. Like so, because whether you stretch this and treat it like I will with this rope before I go rope something with it, or you tie this Honda, tighten it down a little bit and go rope something, this knot will pull a little bit tighter. So if you take, let's not scatter those across the house, please, baby. Thank you. It will take and tighten a bit more, and if you cut the tails, okay, here, go scatter them across the house. if you cut those tails right flush against the knot, that knot will pull over them. So for those of you that are roped a lot, yes, you will feel the extra wind resistance the first time you rope something with that, but add a little bit more power to your throw, problem solved. Okay, now our next step is to tie our Honda onto this. And the big secret here, you're gonna have to follow me through the house real quick, honey, is your speed burner, little plastic speed burners that are astronomically expensive right now. This one was almost $4 for a 10-cent piece of plastic. It's kind of crazy. The secret to these is to put them in hot water. Just get you a little bit of that hot water, drop it right in there. And then don't let your toddler burn herself on the hot water. That can sit for a minute or two while you tie your rope. Okay, you go to tie your Honda, go from the right hand side over top, and then through itself you get a simple little overhand granny knot where it's doubled right there. You just put that through and then slide that like so, and that forms your Honda. I personally prefer a Honda that's just a touch bigger than the average guys. Not very much, but just a little bit. In my opinion, that adds a little bit of weight, and it helps it come off of like a leg or something just a little bit easier. That's my opinion on it. Some guys may feel different. Some guys may prefer a brass ring Honda for a bunch of extra weight. I roped with one of those years ago, got along with it okay, and finally just decided that I wanted to be able to run this type of Honda. So when the next thing I would do normally in the step of this process is I would take and I would hook this over something that's not going to spin like that. I would uncoil the rope, the length of it, and I would go to the tail and I would pull on it with my body weight just as hard as I can several times until it quits twisting as I release it. Just we'll kind of act it out here. We're going to say that it's that Honda is over top of something that won't spin. I'll come to the tail, I'll pull on it as hard as I can, and when I release it, it'll twist a couple times. And I'm going to do that over and over and over again until it quits twisting at all. That'll get all of the memory twists and the finger eaters and the kinks and stuff out of it. That step's pretty important. If not, you're just building problems into the rope. I then take, and the knot I like to use, usually I put that over, say, a tow hook on a pickup, the latch on your gooseneck, something like that. The other end I use like on the bumper of a pickup, because we have big cow pusher bumpers. You guys have seen that on my silver pickup. And I will take the tail. You're going to want to get close on this one to show them. I will go over, then over a second time. Come on, slide across there. And then under it like so. Okay, to make that knot right there. Because that knot, and it's just with the tail of the rope here, so the little kinks and stuff that this really doesn't matter. But this knot will not pull loose until you slack it. And also another thing it does versus tying different kinds of knots is all this is just wrapped. It's not actually like kinked and knotted. So this is on the pickup that moves. This is, say, on the gooseneck latch of your trailer or some other fixed point that will not move or spin. This piece here. Shh. I will back this pickup up and I will get this rope just guitar string tight to where when it's stretched, you can barely take one hand like that and cause any deflection in that rope. You need to be careful, obviously, because you'll snap them if you get them way too tight. Just go a little bit at a time, and I like to try and think of this rope needs to be just a little bit tighter than it would be if I was holding like a really big bull on the ground or something like that. Like just a little bit tighter than what you'll actually use it for. And then like I said, you're gonna take one hand like this. You're gonna pour your boiled linseed oil in your hand and just run it down the rope like this and keep pouring and running it and do the entire length of the rope. Do not wear good shoes, good pants, or a good shirt while you do that. That boiled linseed oil stinks and it stains. Leave it stretched like that for 2 or 3 days is best. At minimum overnight. And then your rope, when you go to use it, it's gonna feel kind of slimy. It's gonna feel kind of heavy. You're gonna think you ruined it. Just trust me, trust the process. The longer it is after the process and the more you rope with it, the better it'll feel. Okay, after I do that, you get your speed burner. You reach in your hot water. Your rope's all treated. Take your speed burner. You put it in your Honda here. Just like that. You take your tail, put it through. Oops. Well, this part can be kind of a pain sometimes. I don't know if you can do this way. And it'll just clip in. Ideally, I like to put it around a fence post and then just pull on it, but I'll see if I can, get it to clip on like that. And that's how you do that. If you do not heat these speed burners up in hot water, they will shatter when they clip on. That's probably the biggest secret to these things. They're a pain in the butt unless they're hot. You can, if you don't have hot water, if you're out in the desert, just put it on the dash of your pickup in the summer on the heater vent or something like that and make sure and get them hot. Thread your rope back through itself like so, and you're ready to go roping. That's how I treat these. Some people have, and I have rope, you can paint these. Go to your hardware store, whatever, and get exterior house paint. Whatever color you so desire, it does not matter. Probably like the semi-gloss or something is fine. You don't need anything fancy. I've used exterior house paint. I've used tractor paint, just exterior paint. I don't know if that's like oil-based or what. As long as it says exterior, you're good to go. And the process for doing that is extremely similar. You take your rope out of itself, hook the Honda over a fixed point that won't turn, stretch it super tight with a pickup again. And the only difference is you're gonna take a rag and you're gonna get that rag, get a bunch of paint on it, and then you're gonna just keep working it from the Honda to the tail. Always go that direction with that paint. Don't ever go from the tail to the Honda. Zoom in real close here, hon. Because if you see these little fuzzies on this rope, when you paint them, it lays them down. If you go from the Honda to the tail, they'll all be laid down to where when you slide rope, they slide nicely. But if you go wrong and they're all facing the other way when it slides through your hand, it's gonna feel like you're sliding barbed wire through your hand. They get really sharp. Do that to the whole length of the rope, and then super important, do it when it's hot outside, do it when it's dry outside if you're lucky enough to live in a dry climate, and let it stay stretched for like 2 or 3 days minimum. If you can take and stretch it on a big fence line, like with a come along where you can leave it for like a week, that's even better. The longer it dries, the better. And then don't use a really new pretty saddle the first couple times you roping it, because you're gonna get paint all over. I did that one time. I had this cotton rope I painted. Color was it blue? I think it was New Holland tractor blue, and got in a hurry. Well, kind of got in a hurry on accident. I painted it, and then made my circle the next day. Got back to my cow camp, and there was a note that the cow boss left say, "Hey, come to the headquarters. We're gonna brand some calves. I said, okay, great. So I just grabbed it and went, and by the end of that branding, I had blue all over my chaps, my saddle, my dowley wrap. I was riding a gray horse. The one side of his neck was blue. There was blue paint everywhere. So you need to leave them up a couple days minimum. Like I said, a week is best. And the difference between painting or linseed oiling one of these ropes is the stiffness. They both end up feeling kind of nice and heavy like a poly rope does. The linseed oil will act, once it's broke in, will act a little bit more like a grass rope or a real soft poly. It'll be a little bit stiffer than a poly. Hey, you're fine. It'll be a little bit stiffer than a poly. Where when you paint them, it'll be heavy just like that, and it'll be quite a bit stiffer than a poly. My wife ropes pretty good most of the time. She doesn't think so, but she does. And she really likes the painted cottons. They're a bit easier to heal with than just a linseed oiled cotton. I prefer just the linseed oil myself, but I like a little bit softer rope than she does. She'll let me, because of course her hands aren't as big as mine, which I should mention real quick. These come in 88-foot lengths. When I first get them, I cut them to 70 foot. That's a lot of rope to hold on to. It's a lot of rope to pack, but it allows me to cut a rope like this several times before it gets too short for me. Typically, when I decide a rope's too short, it's around 50 foot, 45, 50 foot. She takes them, makes me paint them, and then she uses them and gets along with them really well. I think that about covers it. If the weather wasn't nasty, I'd show you the actual process of treating them, but it's pretty straightforward. I've described about all of it I can. When the weather does break and I do treat this, I will show you guys then, but it might be a week or two. I can't think of anything else to say about this really. If you have any questions, make sure and ask me in the comments. I'll either reply in the comment or I'll cover it in the next video or something like that. So anyways, I hope that helps a bunch of you guys out. These cotton ropes are worth trying. Second to a poly rope, they're about the best feeling rope once they're treated. The longer you use them after they're treated, the better they feel. They get smoothed over, kind of feel like a garden hose on the outside, and man, they really fly through the wind nice then. They're more durable than a poly, but not quite as strong as a nylon. Everybody's got their preference on ropes. I have found that for the cost per foot, the cottons are the best value once you factor in how they feel, how long they last, how resilient to cutting and stuff like that they are. So anyways, guys, hope it helps. We'll see you on the next one.